On the screen, a narrow prediction line stretches out from the torpedo's icon. It crosses the carrier's projected course not near the bow, not near the stern, but directly through the center of the ship. No one reacts to it. The detail simply confirms what everyone already understands. At 0524, the ship's data links activate again. Escort vessels send in matching tracks. Different sensors, different angles, same conclusion. No contradiction, no uncertainty. The engagement chain is holding. The torpedo's guidance remains steady. In the sonar room, the operator fine-tunes the filters, separating the signature from the surrounding noise. The sound is clear now, a precise mechanical pulse moving through the water with calm purpose. It is not the scattered pattern of a seeker searching blindly. This one already has its path. The intercept timer drops below 4 minutes. No one announces it. The carrier's defensive system shifts to the next layer, not action, but awareness. Algorithms recalculate timing windows. Countermeasure zones appear, disappear, and appear again. Options are studied, but none are chosen yet. Every move carries weight. At 0525, the torpedo changes depth by only a few meters. It is a small adjustment, almost easy to miss, but it matters. The new depth places it in a cleaner acoustic channel, away from the interference near the surface. That single refinement says more than any radio message could. This is not a signal. It is a calculated approach. On the bridge, the captain watches the updated track without changing expression. He has seen patterns like this before in training, in simulations, in controlled exercises far from danger. But this is not an exercise. The escorts adjust their positions again, tightening the formation just enough to overlap their coverage. No ship breaks away, no vessel surges forward. This is not a pursuit, it is a net being drawn tighter. At 0526, the torpedo's speed levels out. That matters more than acceleration. A steady pace means the guidance has settled. The system is no longer making hard corrections. It has confidence in its course. Inside the Combat Information Center, a watch officer notices the change. He says nothing. The numbers are clear enough on their own. The distance keeps closing. 3 minutes. Somewhere below deck, a sailor secures a loose tool without waiting for an order. Another tightens a strap. These are not commands. They are instincts built through repetition and hard experience. Above them, the flight deck remains still. Aircraft stay chained down. There will be no launch into this moment. At this stage, aircraft cannot solve a problem moving underwater. At 0527, the torpedo rises again, shallow and controlled. It is positioning for its final guidance phase. This is the point where the engagement chain becomes hardest to interrupt. Passive tracking may soon give way to active homing. The torpedo is close enough now to switch on its own sensors at any second. If that happens, reaction time shrinks sharply. The carrier's systems prepare for that possibility in silence. No sirens, no klaxons. The ship does not display alarm. The timer drops below 2 minutes. On the tactical display, the predicted approach cone narrows into a thin wedge. There are fewer places left to move, fewer choices that do not require commitment. This is the stage where hesitation becomes costly. At 528, the torpedo holds its line. No erratic motion, no sudden burst, no dramatic final push, just steady closure. It has entered the window where physics begins to matter more than guidance. Even if its tracking failed now, momentum alone would carry it dangerously close. That is the reality the crew is operating within. The captain gives another brief order. Again, no explanation follows. Everyone who needs to understand already does. Systems acknowledge. Countermeasures begin to arm but remain inactive. They will not be used unless the moment demands it. Because the next action, whatever it is, will determine whether this remains a silent contest of sensors, discipline, and timing, or turns into something far more visible. And now, the clock is no longer counted in minutes. At 5:29, the calculations stop feeling abstract. The range falls through the final safety margin, the last space where hesitation can still be absorbed. From here on, every second removes another option. The track remains clean, bearing unchanged, depth exact. The torpedo is no longer simply approaching the carrier's path. It is converging with it. Inside the Combat Information Center, the display refreshes again. The projected intercept tightens into a narrow corridor with no room for doubt. The torpedo does not drift, it does not search, it does not test another route, it commits. The timer drops below 90 seconds. No one says the number out loud. It does not need a voice. It is already there on the screen, sharp and final. A silent countdown. On the bridge, the captain shifts his weight by the smallest amount. His eyes stay locked on the repeater. He does not ask for recommendations. Those have already been processed, ranked, rejected, or held in reserve by the systems and the people responsible for them. This is no longer the moment for discussion. The torpedo makes a faint correction, so slight that an untrained eye might miss it. a fractional change in depth, a small adjustment in heading. The movement is precise, not frantic. It is compensating for something the carrier introduced earlier without altering its own course. That detail matters. It means the system is not guessing. At 5:30, the escorts settle into their final positions. Overlapping coverage aligns. Distances tighten. The formation takes shape with quiet purpose, built to endure pressure without creating confusion. No ship accelerates, no ship turns hard. They hold. The carrier remains steady. A sudden maneuver now could expose the wrong angle, create acoustic interference, or disrupt coordination. Movement is still an option, but only at the exact right second. That second has not arrived. In the sonar room, the operator hears the tone sharpen. The sound is no longer simply present. It presses forward, steady and deliberate. The mechanical pulse carries a confidence that leaves little room for doubt. This is not a seeker drifting blindly through the dark. It is a guided system following a solution it trusts. The intercept timer passes 60 seconds. This is the line. Beyond it, physics begins to dominate. Reaction windows narrow. Defensive layers overlap so tightly that one mistake could trigger another almost instantly. The captain speaks again. One sentence, not loud, not dramatic. It does not name a contact or a response. It names a posture, a shift from watching to readiness. Across the ship, acknowledgements move quietly through the chain. Systems transition, safeties release. Compartments that never move without authorization unlock and wait. Somewhere deep inside the carrier, a mechanism comes alive. Not active yet, just ready. At 0531, the torpedo rises into its terminal band. This is where many systems reveal themselves with a sudden signal, a final burst of speed, or an urgent attempt to confirm the last few meters of the path. This one does none of that. It stays quiet. That restraint is more concerning than speed. The carrier's sensors search for any sign of emission. Nothing appears. The torpedo is trusting its stored data, its internal guidance, and its prediction of where the carrier will be when the distance closes. The timer drops below 40 seconds. There is no longer much benefit in waiting, but acting too early still carries risk. The captain glances at the clock once, only once. Then his eyes return to the track. He does not need to look again to know how much time is left. He gives the order. Short, exact, final. This is the last moment where control still belongs to this side of the engagement. At 5:32, the carrier responds. Not with spectacle, not with visible force. Nothing breaks the surface. Nothing launches into view. No violent disturbance tears through the water. Instead, the ship addresses the problem at its most fragile point: guidance. The response is measured, layered, and deliberately restrained. The objective is not to overpower the torpedo. The objective is to confuse it, to disturb the certainty it depends on, to place doubt inside a system that had none. The measures activate in sequence, not all at once. Each step is calibrated to reveal as little as possible while doing just enough. This is not a display of force. It is a test of discipline. The torpedo reacts. For the first time since detection, its line shifts. Only slightly, but enough. In the operator's headset, the sound changes. Subtle but unmistakable. The steady mechanical rhythm falters, recovers, then falters again. The torpedo is still moving fast. It is still a serious threat, but it is no longer perfectly certain. The timer continues downward. 30 seconds. The torpedo tries to correct. It adjusts depth again, sharper than before. This time, the movement is not smooth. It is compensating. The trusted solution is beginning to slip. The carrier holds its course. No sudden turn, no rushed maneuver, because this phase is not about outrunning something beneath the surface. It is about forcing a machine to question what it believes it knows. And in the next few seconds, that doubt will decide everything. At 0533, the certainty breaks. Not all at once, not dramatically, just enough to matter. In the sonar room, the tone shifts again, now uneven. The clean rhythm that defined the contact for the last several minutes begins to fragment. It is still present, still fast, still serious. But it no longer sounds sure of itself. The countermeasures continue, layered and controlled. Nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic. Just enough interference to make the torpedo question the picture it had trusted from the moment it entered the water. The system responds by climbing. It is the expected move, a search for cleaner water and clearer returns. But the ocean above is no longer giving it a truthful picture. What the torpedo expects to detect and what its sensors now receive begin to drift apart. On the display, the line bends. Only a few degrees at first. A small correction, as if the system believes the problem is temporary. It is still trying to recover the original solution. The carrier does not move. At 0534, the torpedo adjusts again, this time with more urgency. Speed changes. depth wavers. These are not signs that it has stopped working. They are signs that the system is working harder than it was designed to at this stage. The escorts hold formation. No ship breaks pattern. No one treats this like it is over. This moment is delicate. One wrong signal, one overreaction, and the torpedo could regain a clean track. Inside the Combat Information Center, a watch officer marks the change in behavior. He does not smile. He does not relax. He understands this phase too well. Systems become less predictable when their certainty begins to fail. The torpedo tries to regain control. It sweeps wider, sampling the water around it, searching for a clean acoustic picture. But every sweep costs efficiency. Every adjustment drains momentum. Every correction uses energy it cannot get back. The intercept timer stretches, not by much, but enough to matter. At 0535, the sound in the sonar operator's headset breaks apart again. The pulse that once felt steady now has gaps, tiny pauses, brief moments where the torpedo hesitates and recalculates against a picture that no longer matches what it expected. It is still moving toward the carrier, but it is no longer moving with certainty. The carrier's systems remain steady. No escalation, no unnecessary additions. The response stays controlled, designed to let the torpedo lose confidence on its own. This is not about overpowering it. It is about outlasting the solution it trusted. At 0536, the torpedo makes its largest correction yet. The track shifts noticeably to port, then swings back again. The movement is no longer smooth, it is reactive. The system is chasing an answer that keeps slipping just out of reach. In the Combat Information Center, the projected intercept point moves off the carrier's path, not far enough to call it safe. Not yet. But the line is no longer centered where it was. The captain watches the display without expression. He says nothing. He does not congratulate the room. He knows this is not finished until the contact is no longer a contact. The torpedo speed drops. Not a shutdown, not a total failure. A deliberate reduction as the system shifts power towards sensing and processing. That choice costs it range, it costs time, it costs options. At 0537, the sound begins to fade, not vanish, fade. The mechanical pulse weakens, stretched thin by repeated corrections and wasted energy. The torpedo is still active, but its world has narrowed. The ocean it thought it understood has become misleading. It descends slightly, then levels out. Another attempt to stabilize. It does not work. The guidance loop begins to collapse. Without a clean picture, the system falls back into search behavior. The confident intercept line dissolves into a widening arc. On the screen, the track drifts away from the carrier's projected course. The timer is no longer counting down. It is counting up. At 0538, the contact loses lock completely. The sound drops below the level where it can be followed with confidence. The last return flickers, then disappears into background noise and shifting layers of water. The room stays quiet. No cheers, no sudden relief. No one moves too soon. They wait. Seconds pass. No reacquisition. Another sweep confirms it. The torpedo has lost the carrier. Whether it runs out of energy, shuts itself down, or fades into silence no longer matters. The danger has passed. Only then does the captain give the order to ease posture. Systems step down in sequence, reversing the same careful path they followed on the way up. Safeties re-engage. Mechanisms return to standby. The carrier remains steady. The ocean above looks unchanged. To anyone watching from a distance, nothing has happened. But beneath the surface, the most critical moment of the morning has already passed. And it ended not with noise, but with a machine realizing it no longer knew where it was. At 5:39, the ocean returns to silence. Not true silence. Ships are never truly silent. But the pressure that had turned every second into a decision is gone. The display steadies. The last strange returns fade into background clutter and thermal layers, and the sea quietly takes back its secrets. No one celebrates. Inside the Combat Information Center, the ship's posture eases one stage at a time. Not fully. Not yet. Every step is controlled, as if the carrier itself is waiting for proof before releasing the tension it has been holding. The carrier stays on course. That choice matters. A situation that forces the ship to change direction still leaves a mark. This one does not. The carrier continues exactly where it was headed, at the same speed it meant to keep all along. The escorts remain close. Their spacing does not change. No vessel separates from formation. No one pushes ahead. The formation stays locked until certainty replaces assumption. At 0541, confirmation comes in from multiple sensors. No reacquisition, no remaining guidance signal, no secondary contact. The torpedo is gone. Whether it exhausted itself, shut down, or drifted harmlessly into the deep will never be publicly confirmed. It does not need to be. The result that matters has already been logged. The captain gives a short order. Not to respond outward, not to pursue, to document. Across the ship, systems begin collecting everything: timestamps, sensor logs, acoustic captures, environmental data, and every recorded shift from the encounter. Each second is preserved, encrypted, and stored. This is not for public statements. This is for memory. Below decks, analysts are already rebuilding the event piece by piece. Bearings are traced backward. Speed changes are mapped. Guidance behavior is compared against known patterns. The picture becomes clearer with every passing minute. The source is not a mystery. It never truly was. Above the waterline, the flight deck slowly returns to its rhythm. Chains are checked. Crews resume maintenance. From a distance, the carrier looks unchanged, just another massive ship moving through open water. But inside, something has shifted. At 0547, airborne surveillance quietly adjusts position. No announcement follows, no explanation is needed. Attention turns outward, not emotionally, precisely. Below the surface, the platform that launched the torpedo has already been found. Not engaged, found. That difference matters, because what just happened was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Proof that restraint is not the same as weakness. Proof that a modern carrier does not need a dramatic response to control the situation. The other side learns the lesson without a single visible flash. They now know what they did not know before. They know their move was detected. They know it was followed. They know it failed. And they know why. At 6:02, the carrier's internal posture returns fully to normal. Watches rotate. Coffee mugs come back out. Conversations resume in quiet voices. The crew moves forward because that is what professionals do once the immediate danger has passed. But the encounter does not truly end there. The data gathered in those few minutes will travel far beyond this morning. It will enter simulations, training programs, future planning, and new procedures. The torpedo that failed here will shape the response to the next one, wherever it appears and whoever is watching. Because the message delivered was not emotional, it was mathematical. A message written in timing, probability, and control. You can launch. We will see it. You can aim. We will disrupt the chain. And any further step will be taken with the knowledge that you are already visible. The carrier continues forward, unchanged in heading and unchanged in purpose. Behind it, the water closes over the moment. Above it, the sky remains empty. And somewhere below the surface, a system built to reach the most powerful ship afloat disappears without ever touching it. No visible exchange, no loss taken. Just a quiet recalibration of power. And a reminder that in modern naval conflict, the strongest message is sometimes delivered in complete silence.